Welcome to Alpha Book Club. I'm Hector Navarro, and this is an online book club for all our Alpha community members. I didn't mess it up that time. Joining me, as always, is Nerdist Editor-in-Chief Rachel Heine.
Hello.
And Maude has returned from the fifth dimension. Maude Garret. Maude, how are you doing? How was your trip?
I'm really cold and numb, but I had this weird alien creature nurse me back to life, so I feel good again.
Beast.
Oh, it's the book I'm talking about. Australia was fine as well as Tokyo.
Great. Oh
now
my
I'm
gosh,
now I'm just travel dropping.
Yeah, no, please, that's fine. That's fine.
Genki desu ka?
Yeah, good to have you back. Good to have you back. What does that mean in Japanese?
You know.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Nice to meet you.
Great. Okay.
Maybe that's Hajime Mashite, but whatever. This is not a Japanese speaking class. This is a book club.
That's right.
True.
If you're just joining us for the first time, we are finishing up A Wrinkle in Time for this month. And whether this is your first time watching or you've been a fan since the very beginning, we want to hear from you. So hit us up in the chat. Start giving us your thoughts. We've had such great discussions about this book. I cannot wait to hear what people think about the ending and just new viewers, anybody. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we also have a Twitter poll going right now for our next book. We have Catalyst Rogue One, a Rogue One novel by James Luceno, maybe.
Luceno. He's done a couple of Star Wars books already.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's my forte, guys.
Nice.
I actually haven't read any Star Wars books since the
Acquisition.
since all the
That's
old
when I
ones
kind of
were.
started
Yes.
reading them
So have you
all.
read some?
Yes, I
Which ones have you
have.
read? Which ones have you enjoyed?
Tarkin was great. The first book that came out, I think I've like literally taken it out from my memory because it was so bad. It was like A New Dawn or something. It was terrible.
Oh.
But that was introducing.
Rebel Dawn or something?
Yeah, but that was introducing the rebels, kind of like their origin story.
Sure. That's too bad.
But then there's some of them that have been amazing. So there's like the story of Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine kind of like establishing their relationship and what they got up to. Anyway.
Also, I got to mention those comic books from Marvel have also.
Oh, they're
been-
amazing.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
Yes.
They're really, really good. So, yeah, okay, what else is on the
We
thing?
also have The Gunslinger, which is the first book in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King.
Who? Just kidding. Stephen King, you guys.
I don't think I've ever read a Stephen King.
I haven't
I've
yet
read
either.
a bunch of them, but I haven't read the Dark Tower series.
Well, this is like the first book I've understood of his that isn't scary at all.
Supernatural.
Yes.
It's fantasy science fiction.
There's
Yes, which I'm
one
excited about.
called like Eye of the Dragon or something of the Dragon, which was actually the first one I read. That's like a fantasy murder mystery sort of.
Wow.
And then I got into the other ones when I was little.
Too
That's
scary.
awesome, yeah.
And the last one is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, which is
K-Dick.
All right.
Sorry.
I'm so glad you're back.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best. And
But you guys can vote right now on Twitter at Join Team Alpha, and we're going to announce the winner at the end of today's show, so we'll
Vote
know
now.
what to read for next week.
That's right, guys. And it looks like it's time to get our wrinkle on.
Oh, yes.
Let's get our wrinkle
Ooh.
on. That's our thing
That's
that
our
we've been
new-
saying.
Oh yeah?
That's
Okay,
our
because I'm
thing.
crying inside now.
Okay, great.
We're going to use it for every
book.
book.
We're going to get our wrinkle on. Yeah, it's great. It's
By like the
actually
end of that first like year, we're gonna be just old, decrepit people.
time to get our wrinkle on. So it's time for Previously On. Now, Maude, you were out for the beginning of the book, but
have,
you've obviously read it.
Yes, I've read the whole thing.
God bless you. This is
Yep.
amazing that you've caught up, you've read it. Do you want to get us and our members up to speed on what they missed since the beginning of the book?
Ooh.
Chapters 1 through 9.
Well, little Meg, what a brat, want to smack her. She's hysterical a lot
Awesome.
of the time.
It's great.
And has this weird brother, Charles Wallace. You have to say both names, can't just be Charles. It has to be Charles Wallace. Did we explain why that is? Because that's, again, quite unusual. Parents are very, very smart. Dad's a physicist who has figured out and built, I think, a tesseract, which is all about the fifth dimension and can travel through time, and he's kind of lost at the moment, so it's up to the kids. And their neighbour, who comes out of nowhere and who apparently plays a big role all of a sudden, which doesn't make sense, decides to help them out on an adventure.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and apparently the twin brothers, they're a bit intellectually stunted because they don't get a part of the journey at all. They stay at home with mama.
Or are they smart but are pretending to be dumb? That was another thing that Meg was saying at the beginning of the book too, is like maybe these twins are actually smart like the rest of this nerd family, but they are also athletic and cool and popular, so they decide to kind of play dumb, as it were.
So this book is targeted, I think the perfect reading age is 9 to 12.
Okay.
9 to 12 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
There are so many things in this book, which is fantasy and science fiction
Yes.
and religious. There are some heavy religious tones in here that I, as a 9-year-old, would not grasp. when they're like, quick, do the timetables. You're like, she's not old enough to learn these. And she knows the periodic table, and they know things off by heart. And
well, it was the 50s. And the education system,
they
public
didn't have the
education in the
internet.
United States,
Yeah.
yes, they didn't have the internet.
Had
Was
to go to the
was really
library
good.
and read
Dewey Decimal
encyclopedias.
System.
And you had to know it off by
No
heart instead of just
multiplication
having the
tables.
answer in a little device.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
It was before calculators or abacuses or abaci, as you call them.
Is
So-
it? No.
No?
No, abacus has been around for centuries.
My bad. All right. Well, they weren't allowed.
Totally innocent.
They weren't allowed. But they go on the kids go on the adventure with their neighbor Calvin with these three mystical, magical women, Mrs. What's-It, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Witch. Of course, played by Reese Witherspoon, Mindy Kaling, and Oprah Winfrey. Which
Really?
is awesome. Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah. It's great. It's so great.
Oh, man.
It's so great. Yeah,
Okay.
I've been fan casting that because, of course, Ava DuVernay, we'll talk about that in a little bit, is making a new film adaptation of it, and that's the main cast are the magical ladies. And we had Chris Pine as Mr. Murray, the dad, so he was super handsome. He is,
right.
yes.
He's a little young to be a dad.
They'll put a beard on him.
Lately he's growing out a beard. He's trying to look
like the
very
beard.
distinguished. He's dressing sort of like a grandpa from the 70s.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of mustard-colored clothes.
It's just Hollywood all over again. I
don't know why.
Every mum is 34 to their 16-year-olds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's just what we think. Or no, that actually, that's right.
Yeah, I'll be cast as a
It's
mum in
science.
something soon.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Wrinkles! Yay!
Let's get our wrinkle on, y'all. Now that we know what's happened so far, let's finish up the book. We're talking about the last quarter of the book, chapters 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
And still super stressful. I thought it was really, really stressful. I don't
Yeah.
know how you felt about the stress level, Maude, but as I'm reading this, I'm like, this could be intense for a kid. And I know one of the things about A Wrinkle in Time, one of the things that in the back of this particular copy, Madeline L'Engle talks about what a kid is able to grasp and what they're able to hold on to. I think that movies and books for kids that we all grew up with were a little bit scarier maybe than I remember them to be. So for me, when I was reading this, I'm like, this is scary. This is stressful for a 9 to 12-year-old range to be reading this to them or them to be reading it because they lose Charles Wallace to it because they don't know how to do stuff and they end up on an alien planet and it's really, really stressful.
What's going on? And they also, when Meg is going to go back to Camazotz, Mrs. Witch says, well, you know, this is probably going to be a fatal trip, but we'll
You
try.
could die. Yeah, this could be fatal.
Yeah, I know.
And the dad's like, no, I don't think I'll let my daughter go. No, she knows she has to do this. You're stopping her.
They were like questioning a
did.
father's love. They're like, why not? Why aren't you gonna let her do
Yeah,
this?
she
And he
could
was
die.
like, you just said she'll probably
She's
die.
a young girl.
So yeah, the last couple chapters are they break away because Mr. Murray, of course played by Chris Pine with a beard, is able to break his daughter Meg and Calvin, the neighbor kid, away from it while Charles Wallace is left behind. And they go to a planet where they don't know, and it's cold and it's gray and it's like colorless and it's devoid of light. And then these aliens show up. Explain to the audience what these aliens are, guys. What the heck were we looking at?
They had, so it was hard because they had fur, but also tentacles.
Multiple arms with lots
Yeah.
of little tendrils.
And
Not
they
fingers, but
spoke-
tentacles.
And they spoke out of their tentacles, but not their mouths.
But they didn't really have any facial features at all.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
indentations
Just like
they describe
yeah.
for eyes and,
And are also telepathic as well, and trying to suss out. And they don't see. They see, they don't
They
understand.
know.
Yeah, they know
I
what
like
things
that.
are. What I liked about them, besides Aunt Beast, who I love, and I
Yes.
want to know
Yeah.
who's, I
it's
think
like my new favorite Chewbacca.
I know, so sweet.
Here,
And
be
I love-
soft and fed. And it's like, okay, amazing.
Yeah. Let me just take care of you. It was a really sweet moment. But I like that Meg, she's under the influence of the black thing.
Yes.
But I like that she also has to sort of deal with, she's been the outsider this whole time. She's been dealing with people judging her. But she immediately judges these aliens and is thinking of them as monsters and beasts and doesn't trust them.
She's like, they're going to eat me. They're going to eat us. They're going to eat me. They're showing up and they're so creepy looking. And
Well, they've just had a really bad experience
Yeah.
before where they're
Totally.
not really going to trust anyone. And the first alien the second technically alien planet that they visited turned out to be a disaster. So now they're being hyper cautious.
Yeah.
But it turns out that these gorgeous beasts are probably the best thing ever.
yeah, they're
Which
so
is
great.
a lovely
They're
little
really
refreshing.
sweet.
I love the way that the warmth was described, that they would emanate, and that you would feel a sense of calm, and that they sort of they wanted to understand, but they weren't mad that they didn't. But they're just like curious, is like, what is that word? What is that thing in your head? That's so interesting. You're so dumb. You humans are so dumb. Oh, look at you though. You're so stupid. Like there's a lot of, I mean, all the human characters, Mr. Murray, Calvin, and Meg, especially when they're on this planet, and then when the three ladies show up, Mrs. Who, Mrs. What's-It, Mrs. Which, there's just a lot of them being talked down to.
Yeah.
And they try to be nice about it. We're like, you guys, you don't get it. You're humans. You're stupid. You don't get it. But it still is like you're talking down to me.
But in a way, I feel like as the audience member, we've been left in the dark about so many things. Why is Charles Wallace different?
Sure.
Why are they able to go through time? Why was the father missing and why was he chosen for the adventure? You know, like all these sorts of things that when you finally have these the characters that have this knowledge say to you that technically the audience, you're dumb, you don't know anything. It's like, well, of course I don't know anything because you're not telling me anything.
Yeah, that's true.
I wish we had gotten, I know that there are more books in the series and I quite enjoyed the themes and the characters, but I do wish we had gotten a little bit more about what
Interesting.
even a little bit.
Ended so fast.
It did. It ended rapid fire. It was. And
It was like
speaking
Haunting of Hill House. It's like, oh, and she's dead.
It's done. But nobody died. Nobody died. But it was. It definitely ended really, really quickly. So the last few chapters are.
There was so much quest. What I loved about it, it's like, I will give you items to aid you in your venture. As a D&D player, like that is music to my ears. I'm like, how will this,
It's Zelda. It's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this. Yes! The power of self-respect or whatever. And then they're able to do the thing.
Yeah, now it's like, oh, and I give you your faults. And I was like, oh, that's shitty. Like, what a lame thing to get. It's like saying sometimes you get angry and impatient and that will work for you. So when she became so exacerbated and when she was like, oh, all over the place, I was like, oh, we have to celebrate this. I didn't want to celebrate that.
You didn't?
No, she's so annoying. Guys, oh,
classic Maude. Oh, it's great.
But in a way, like, and have you noticed, like I was just talking to Rachel about this before, with this language, because it is written in, was it written in the 50s, published in the 60s?
Yeah.
62 or 63, I think.
Oh, bother. Oh, father. Sure. It's not dad, it's father. And everything's, oh, goodness.
There's a lot of Meg as a character. There's frustration with her because we all know that she's the hero and that she's us and she's capable, but she doesn't. And she asks for Calvin to do things, and she asks for Charles Wallace to do things, and she asks for Mr. Murray to do things. And they're definitely, it's going to be interesting to see, again, with this film adaptation, with how far they lean into that, of Meg feeling so helpless that she's literally helpless and as asking other characters to do stuff, or has this sort of, you know, this feeling about her, how far they're going to lean into it. And because I think that it's a tricky balance to have a character at the end to have that hero moment.
But it wasn't, it was so snuffed. This was her time to shine.
Was it earned, or do you guys think that the ending and the sort of Meg moment at the end wasn't earned?
Not at all. I wasn't satisfied with it remotely. It was like, you know, this whole build-up where everyone else, you were saying, is so special around her and celebrated and really has all these abilities.
Yeah. And
she really had nothing. And then finally, this was like, only she could undertake this task. Only she had the power to love and be loved in a way. But then when it happened sort of so quickly, like I wanted to see the brain melt. I wanted to see the destruction of it. I wanted to see this whole wave lifted off the people of the planet, and it was celebrated because of this one girl. But it wasn't. It was like, whoop, and we're back. Ha!
Yeah. Plague Wind says,
no consequence.
I don't think I would have enjoyed this as a kid. I thought it was good now, though. And Plague Wind also says the last 3 chapters all blended together. So that's what happened pretty much at the end. We can now ask you guys in the chat, please let us know, did you enjoy the book? Did you feel like, I'm going to disagree and agree with what Maude is saying and a little bit with Rachel is saying. Because I did feel this dissatisfaction, but I was also happy that it's part 1 of a 5-part series, or a 5-part series, because I'm happy of like, ooh, I get to read more of this. There's a disappointment of, yes, the brain didn't melt and it's still around, but there's also like, there's going to be more adventures, and I want to read more of the family, and I'm looking in the back and there's a whole family tree, and then there's a whole separate book series with a different set of characters that
I wish I didn't read that.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because the twins have different names in it. Did you notice that? There are the male twins and the female twins.
What do you mean?
Look, where are the twins?
Right here.
No, I think that's who they
Denny's
end up.
and Sandy.
Oh, that's who they end up with.
And then Rhea is some
here
person
I was thinking they went through a wave of time, and then they went back home, and the twins were girls. I prefer my story.
They flash pointed it. Oh, they messed with
That would be really interesting.
That's really sad.
Because they're such a non-character.
Sure.
Like, they played such a small role that for them to be kind of completely
I think they
changed,
end
like,
up, I think,
they
sort
get
of
married.
like in a similar series in the religious overtones of the C.S. Lewis books, where the different siblings end up having different moments, and it follows kind of that same thing. Yeah. I felt like the end was rushed, and I liked that. I thought the moment of her coming into her own, and that she is just as, and she can just be as intelligent as her family, and she can accept this within herself. That's what I wanted to get to. But I agree, it's, you spend all this time on Camazotz, we go through the creepy town and you see all the kids and there's all this description, and then at the end it's over so abruptly.
Right.
You don't have to give every answer because obviously there's this larger mystery about what they're fighting for and who they are and all of these things and who Charles Wallace is. I'm not super upset that we don't understand that yet because that feels like something that will come in another book.
Again, maybe that's just me. My favorite show of all time is Lost, and I got nothing, no answers, but I love the journey. But please go on. But sorry, did I throw a tangent with Lost? Sorry.
I have a lot.
I think you were investing so much in this town because
Sure.
we did spend so long there. You know, there was a higher power. Everyone was controlled, and I think that there was so much more of a payoff that could have happened.
With Camazotz, with that world being saved.
I just wanted a ripple effect, like because there was this investment, but like this blink and you miss it, and they're home so suddenly when there was a lot of space travel as well.
That was so quick. That was so quick.
Like the journey of like going through the black matter and like, you know, the darkness, that was always quite in itself a big part of the journey. But then for it to zip and be back, like it kind of was like, well, then why was she almost dead the second time they traveled? Why did they bother with it if it's
Why
just
does she have a hard time doing it? Why is she different? I think too, not to get too into Lost because I still am, I was a big Lost fan and I was on the Lost forums.
Yeah, okay.
And super into it.
Great.
But I think that there can be the emotional journey and the storytelling payoff, and so I feel like
You could do both.
you can do.
It
You
doesn't
should
have
be
to
able
be-
to do both, and Lost did it much worse in the end, I think, than and was devastated and was devastated by.
Oh, I love the finale. I loved it. We'll have to have a conversation.
Yeah,
about
we'll
it.
have
That
to
was so
talk
great.
about that. But I still, I've been wanting to rewatch it because I loved it so much, and
Sure.
I
think it's
through it.
like most shows made after Lost, it's better to binge it now. It's not good week two. It's better to binge
go.
it.
But,
Riv Sung says, agreed, the ending felt rushed.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I love the themes, especially for a kid. Some of the stuff that we talked about, and sort of acceptance and finding your own power. And I loved all the themes, but I did feel like because it's so easy to say, well, there's a couple other books. I think
I'm not
it
excited
should-
to read the next
It
one.
is.
It should
Oh, I'm
stand
so
alone.
stoked.
I would like to read
Yeah.
the next ones, but I do think
I have no
that
invested
can be an
interest.
excuse.
Yeah. I think the best example is Star Wars A New Hope, because it ends with the Death Star blown up, but they easily, because the world was so beautifully built, they went into the sequel like, well, the Empire's still around. Like, that's just their one weapon. Now let's
Yeah.
keep telling the stories. So there was still this sense of finality and of resolution, which you get at the end of that story. The hero saves essentially a world, right? Luke is the thing. He gets a medal. And there wasn't that moment really in
We needed a
A Wrinkle
ceremony.
in Time. A ceremony. The ceremony was reunited with the family in a page and a half,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
beautiful, but super, super quick.
We don't see. I was really invested in Mrs. Murray, and I felt like she was such a powerhouse, and you don't even get to see her reaction or what's happening.
She had a
Maybe that's
beautiful,
at the
vulnerable
beginning.
moment. Yeah, at the
Maybe
beginning.
that's the beginning of the next book. Maybe
One
they
can only hope.
take. But
Yeah.
I still feel like if you're hoping, if you are reading this in 1962,
Yeah.
and there's not another book,
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
But she wrote it. This feels like she's written it as a standalone, but she'd written it as a trilogy initially, and it didn't give me enough to lead on to. There wasn't a cliffhanger moment.
There
You know,
wasn't the well. Let's actually. I think that there was, but if you're saying that it didn't hit enough hard enough for you, totally get it. But I forgot that at the end, the three women showed up: Mrs. Who, Mrs. What's It, Mrs. Which, and Murray, Meg felt them
yeah.
there. And as they were there, they're like, we have to, and then they just disappeared in a thing of wind.
Oh yeah, no, I was
That's
just
it.
like, we have to. Woo,
Yeah.
that's done. What's our next book?
I told myself, I was like, I think I'm gonna go try to find book 2 and read it concurrently as we're reading or whatever our next book is, to do just to kind of be, just to get that sense. And maybe it's because I also feel like I didn't get a sense of resolution. I would have loved it if there was a chapter or two more about Camazotz. Maybe the Murray children say, well, we can't just leave those people there, and the three women are like, wait, we'll get to that later, or no, we have to, but there's this
End
other
it.
planet, but there's this other thing, but there's this other
Tie
thing.
it back with that boy who bounced his ball out of line.
Yeah.
Gave it back to him, and he's just there bouncing the shit out of this ball, being
Something.
like, because I can
Because
now.
the brain melted
like,
or something.
tie it back a bit.
Yeah.
That was a perfect kind of Anyway, I got a little frustrated with it. And can we also talk about the fact that Calvin plants one on Meg, who is how old, 12, in front of the father?
Yes.
That kid's got balls.
Yes, he does.
My God.
It was a different time then. Men would just grab women and kiss them, and that's how it was.
And Mr.
Because
Murray
that's what a
didn't even
man would
clear
do.
his throat. He wasn't even like,
wasn't it
what?
great?
That's my daughter.
Wasn't it great? I really like that part. I'm gonna real quick. Plague Wind says Lost was a great show, but I can't talk about it because of how it ended. That's so disappointing.
It is.
Sucks.
It is hard for me.
I've never seen an episode.
We should do another side show on Alpha where we just rewatch Lost with Maude. That would be so much fun. I love it.
It'll go on right after that.
Yeah, right. Hey guys,
we'll
we're
get
talking
some
about
wine in
season
here.
2, episode 8 of Lost. Really crappy,
a
but
book
let's.
club.
Book club and
have
wine
cheese
club
and
are like,
wine.
yes.
Right?
Yes, I want to share
we can
my
do that.
favorite part of the last 3 chapters of the book.
Yes.
Which is, to me, is like the climax, the pinnacle, the moment for me, which could have maybe been hit harder, but it worked enough for me. But as I'm watching this, I was trying to envision what it would be like in a film, and I think that this is something that they could try to push as the moment in the film, but I think that, like you're saying, Maude, I think the moment might have to be you got to destroy the brain kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Like that should be the moment of getting Charles Wallace, which is another moment. But the moment I'm talking about is when Meg.
Hold on, the moment
Yes.
can't be getting Charles Wallace because they weren't supposed to be there to begin with.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like there needs
They
to be
lost him
a
by mistake.
quest. Yes. So that was a side quest was to get him back, but the real quest I think was to save.
The father.
Yes.
Which happened, but then they made a mistake, and then they had to go.
And then they threw in this other planet. Yep.
Yeah.
What's your moment?
Here's my moment. Here's my moment, Maude. She put her arms around Aunt Beast, pressed up against the soft, fragrant fur.
I could almost smell that.
I know.
Yeah.
So great.
I
Thank
love
you,
Aunt
she
Beast.
whispered. I love you. This is a very Iron Giant moment. I love it. And I, you, little one, Aunt Beast pressed gentle tendrils against Meg's face. Cal, Meg said, holding out her hand. Calvin came to her and took her hand, then drew her roughly to him and kissed her. Roughly. Come on. He didn't.
She's 12. She's
He
12.
didn't say anything, and he turned away before he had a chance to see the surprised happiness that brightened Meg's eyes. At last she turned to her father. I'm sorry, Father. He took both her hands in his, bent down to her with his short-sighted eyes. Sorry for what, Megatron?
Oh,
And then I was like, what did Megatron mean? Is that not just
Megatron and Megaparsec.
Yeah.
This is
those are
before
his
Star
nicknames.
Wars. This is
cute.
before Transformers.
Super cute, yeah.
That did resonate with me.
I didn't have a chance to, but I got to look up what the word Megatron actually means, or what he was referring to. Okay, great. On it. Computers and our phones. Tears almost came to her eyes at the gentle use of the old nickname. I wanted you to do it all for me. I wanted everything to be all easy and simple. So I tried to pretend that it was all your fault because I was scared and I didn't want to have anything to do with myself. But I wanted to do it for you, Mr. Murray said. That's what every parent wants. He looked into her dark, frightened eyes. I won't let you go, Meg. I am going. I think that that's a great Meg moment. I think that that's a moment of when you're a kid realizing that your parents are flawed. She went through a lot of that. She was pissed at him for most of the reunion.
Yeah.
And
I felt
learning
that
what she's capable of.
they tried to blame that on her going through the black thing, and that kind of like seeped into her and gave her this negativity, Negatron. But for me, it felt like a switch. It felt like she was. This is what I was mentioning earlier, where there was this point that she was pushing, where she was so angry. She was yelling. He doesn't get it. Father doesn't understand. It's all his fault. He doesn't care. But the way that she kept drilling on it, it was like, okay, we get it. And then with one hug, it's all gone. She was like, oh, I'm sorry. Let's get to it. And I was just like, it's just kind of all jilted for me when I was
Do you
reading
think that, I'm trying to remember the sequence of events. Did she get already poisoned by the blackness before that? Or are we supposed to be, as the reader, thinking, oh, there's something wrong with Meg. She's being especially mean. Or was that just her own teenager?
I think they are implying that it is the black thing, but it might be bringing. What I get from this is that everyone has this capacity to use their brain or to use the Tesser or to use themselves and their abilities for good or for evil or for their own personal gain. And I think that yes, it's part of the black thing, but I also think it's normal that after your father has been gone a year and you're, 12
Yes,
again?
that you're mad.
And you're mad. You're like, everyone's been suffering. I've been bullied. Mom is miserable. You were supposed to do this, and now Charles Wallace is there. Like, I'm the kid. Why don't you save me? And that's the moment. And it's early for her to have that moment. It's hard to be that young and to say, like, oh, maybe my parents can't save me every time, and maybe I have to save myself. And that I really like in this book.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really hard thing to go through. And especially at that age where you should be mad.
Yeah.
No, it's not great that you volunteered to go leave your family
Not knowing
when
how to
the
get
last
back
person disappeared.
for a year.
That's shitty.
I drew the short straw. You quit your job is what you do. You should quit your job, guy.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous job.
but that quest for knowledge that you see, that arrogance in Charles Wallace, you see, so they are deeply flawed. They're a flawed family. They all either think that they know better. Meg is on the other end where she thinks she can't do anything, and she's helpless, and she kind of wants to be helpless, and she has to figure this out and find some way to pull herself out of this.
But what an attractive family. What an attractive, family.
I didn't picture them like that.
Yeah. Blake Wynn says also the strain on the body from tessering, possibly. Any word on the word Megatron?
Honestly, I went through it and it's only Transformers. And I looked up the origin of the word.
And to go to a library.
That's so great.
Because there'll be an actual... I liked, there was a passage right before when they're trying to explain who Mrs. Witch, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. What's-It are.
To the aliens.
To the beasts. And Calvin, so I thought, we were talking about how they're celestial beings and different things, and I was like, they remind me of guardian, especially because of the religious overtones, they remind me of guardian angels. And they're like, angels! And then she says, how strange it is that they can't tell us what they themselves seem to know, a tall, thin beast murmured. One of Aunt Beast's tentacled arms went around Meg's waist again. They are very young, and on their Earth, as they call it, they never communicate with other planets. They revolve about all alone in space. Oh, the thin beast said, aren't they lonely? That made me really, that was just really such a beautiful line about humanity, I think, and just having a difficult time seeing outside of your own world and communicating with other people, and I thought that was really lovely.
Absolutely,
I love it when that perspective comes into life. I know if I'm having a really bad day or like I'm stuck in a rut, I will go to the Griffith Observatory, and they have with the scaled down versions what the planets are, how far apart they are, and how small Earth is compared to everything else in the Milky Way. And then they also say, you know, how many billions of years this has all been happening for. And you're just like, this is so nothing. We are great. Nothing. Like,
it's
honestly.
Great. I like to listen to the Pale Blue Dot speech from Carl Sagan. That immediately gives me perspective when he just talks about everything that there has ever been and ever will be, every artist, every king, everything is on that little pale blue dot. I'm like, Carl, you had it right. That is brilliant. As you may know, production has just begun on the new film adaptation of A Wrinkle in Time, and it looks like they're already having a bunch of fun on the set. Check out this video of the cast and crew performing the mannequin challenge. Take a look at this, guys. This is really fun.
Whoa.
It's cool. I wonder what this music is. Is this going to be like film music?
I like it.
It's Disney, right? So I
bet How are they going to make this into a movie?
Oh, I got it. I know. Yeah.
They're going to go all Wizard of Oz in the
CGI pie.
Well, just that like a long, I imagine the Oz's chambers for
the brain.
The original Oz. Oz's chambers for the brain, and just this like majestic.
Yeah. That was great. That was a great mannequin challenge. They had the release date on the script there from the young actress playing Meg Murray, and Ava DuVernay was really trying to hit the fact that not only is there diversity in the cast of this film,
but the crew,
but the crew, like they showed everybody, and there's all different types of people working on the film, which is really exciting. They all seem stoked about it. So that's really, really cool. But Maude, you were just asking, how are they going to make this film?
Honestly,
how do you think they would do it?
There were a few times reading this book where I had to stop and be like, yeah, all right, here we go. How are they going to? I kind of want to see the visuals, the artist's interpretation of the alien species, of the first time when they traveled through time, through the Tesseract or through the Wrinkle, and they had all these beasts around. I want to know how that will work, but at the same time, like the witches in my head are not remotely attractive.
No, they're old. I mean, they're described as older women. They're sort of crone-like until they become beautiful creatures.
Yeah. I pictured them. Oh, this is when we do a kind of our fan casting and who we pictured the characters as. Definitely between, what was the Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker?
First Wives Club.
Hocus Pocus
Hocus
is what
Pocus.
you're thinking of.
I was Hocus Pocusing in my head a little bit.
Yeah, they're all Hocus Pocus, yeah.
Yeah, that was...
Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker with heavy makeup.
Heavy makeup.
And,
she didn't go
very
far, so
What's
we forget her name.
Who?
She didn't really take off.
Yeah. Kathy. Was she was like a TV actor, right?
She
was in
she
stuff.
does like character stuff.
Character stuff, yeah.
But not as much.
Chris Pine's definitely not Mr. Murray. No,
Oh,
no.
he was my Mr. Murray.
Really?
Real? Oh yeah, definitely.
No way.
We've
Definitely.
been talking about the film, so
Right.
I didn't get anything outside of. I want to share a couple of castings with you
Go
when you're done.
ahead.
When you're done fan casting.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Who
No,
else
we
you
should
got?
all fan cast together.
Did you cast anybody for the man with the red
Yeah,
eyes?
that's who.
Kind of a Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh,
Cool.
that's too perfect.
Yeah.
That's too scary for children. That's why he's not.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Do you know who it is?
No. Who is it?
It's Michael Pena from
What
Ant-Man,
the hell?
from Cesar Chavez, from yeah.
No!
That's so great. I
He's like
love
the
it.
most fun, wonderful kid
Yeah.
in an adult body.
I love it.
No!
I love it.
Do
I can't
it.
wait. And of course, I got it. What was it? The happy medium. Who did you fan cast as the happy medium?
Which one was the happy medium?
The happy medium was the woman with the crystal ball who was in the cave.
Oh, she was. Have you been watching? This is going to be really weird. I've been watching The Night Of a lot, the
Oh, I haven't
HBO
seen
series.
that. Yeah.
The main protagonist's mother, who is a Pakistani woman, or supposed to be, she had the happy medium thing going in my
Do
head.
you know who is going to play the happy medium in the?
Ooh, I'm ready to walk out. Go.
Zach Galifianakis. Sit back down, Mom. Sit back down.
What
Zach
is this?
Galifianakis. Now,
What
here's
is
the thing.
happening?
Rachel had that same reaction when we heard it was Zach Galifianakis
I
because
don't like
that
it.
that casting released like while we were reading this book,
Yeah,
and so did
I
Michael Pena.
avoided it.
Yeah.
And then I said, no, hang on, Rachel, hang on. If you haven't seen, what's that film, the Zach Galifianakis, Will Ferrell election?
Oh, I've seen that one.
The
Yeah.
crappy comedy
Yeah,
where
it was
they,
awful. Yeah.
it was awful. That's
I
right.
do like things.
Sure,
I
yeah.
sound very negative a lot
But
of
Zach
the time.
Galifianakis in that film had this great little Southern accent, and it had
Yes.
sort of a very feminine energy.
Yes.
And he would say things like, "Give it a Google. It's worth a Google. Give it a Google." And it's this great
not-
character.
no, I don't
this
care.
great character for me that I went, you know what? If he's the happy medium, it's just like, oh, I don't like to see nasty things. I don't like that. I like happy things. That's what I like. I really hope that y'all do a good job. I'll just show you your family real quick. Oh, I'm so
I would
sorry,
rather you
Calvin,
as the
your
happy
family-
medium
know,
at this
I was
point.
So we
think
have
you
no
would be
idea.
great.
We have no idea if Zach Galifianakis is going to do anything close to that, or if they're going to change the character, whatever. But I was telling
I
Rachel,
bet.
I'm like, if they keep that same character, I think he could play a character that has that sort of feminine, warm energy and that really funny Southern little thing. I think that would be real fun. But Mads is in 2 Disney movies this year. Yeah, but Doctor Strange and Star Wars don't count. I mean, it's not.
Well.
That's Marvel and Star Wars. It's not proper Disney. Like this is
And
going to
they
be
do like to keep using.
the same. Yeah, he would have been
same-
too scary though. Mads
No.
Mikkelsen is the man
Yeah,
with
he
the
would
red
be
eyes.
frightening.
It's too
Frightening.
much.
Telling
That's-
Meg like
When
she has
he's-
no power. I'm like,
When he speaks and doesn't smile, it's probably the scariest thing.
That
He's
that
so
was
nice.
the scariest part of the book for sure. Was
Yes.
the man with the red eyes, and the
Yes, it was.
how kind they made him so calm, but then the language would say like he snarled without. You can
like
feel
barely,
it, and you
barely
just,
smiling.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I don't
yeah.
like it.
I just got my roommate for his birthday, all of Hannibal on Blu-ray, and he popped in the first few
Ooh, nope.
episodes, and it's like, oh, that's in my head. It's Mads right there. Patch says, love the book. Plague Wind says he will be an interesting intergalactic gypsy, is what Plague Wind is estimating, guessing on Zach Galifianakis. We have no idea. I don't know. I think it's a solid cast.
How are they going to do
yeah.
Charles Wallace, a 5-year-old who has incredible intellect? How is that going to happen? Are they
There's
going to
a
CGI his face?
No,
No, there's a little
real cute
boy
little kid.
who's been
I
cast.
I
so-
imagine we're going to get hints of, my God, I'm forgetting the actor's name in Jerry Maguire.
Oh yeah.
Hints of what was that kid's name? Not
No.
Haley. You know it's not Haley Joel Osment.
The
Jonathan
blonde one.
Limpnicki. Jonathan
Yeah.
Limpnicki.
That's it.
From Jerry Maguire right before he did Stuart Little, and in Jerry Maguire they gave him lines that were like these very like
Yeah,
know
okay.
educated, wise adult lines, but it was just a little kid
Some
regurgitating
kids
stuff.
are good at
Yeah.
that. Even if they don't understand, you give them a cue or something.
Yeah.
I always think this is a sad story, but Natalie Wood's biography, Natasha, is all about how the like sad things her mom did right before she would go on an audition
Yeah.
to get her to cry when she was
Oh
little.
my
Hopefully that doesn't happen
gosh.
here. But kids get like you tell them to think of a sad
There's
memory
some
or
bright kids.
yeah.
I think I was smarter as a kid comparatively to my age group than I am now as an adult.
Yes.
I think I'm dumber than most adults, but as a kid I was like,
Absolutely.
I was really on top of it.
I was really on top of it, exactly. Patch says, very timely given the global and current political undercurrents.
I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because the three kind of, not themes, but, you know, it is fantasy, science fiction, and religious.
And religion, we talked
Will
about
they
that, yeah.
tap in? Do you think Disney
Great
is going
question.
to talk about the fact that
Great
God
question.
being this, you know, wasn't he... I skipped over it. I couldn't actually read it when I started reading about
when
the
Mrs.
wise
Who
words at
was-
the end.
Yeah.
Skipped it. As soon as it was like, there was one
Really?
great being, he, with capital H.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah,
like...
I thought that went, because before it feels like it's more, and I think this is what they're going to do, it's going to be about goodness, it's going to be about the lessons that you learn, which Madeleine L'Engle was a universalist, so she believed that even if you didn't have access to religion or didn't believe things, if you were a good person, you would be fine. And so I think that they're going to take some of those more clearly Christian beliefs and make it more about being kind, being good, being a warrior like Shakespeare, like all of these other people, and using not just your intellect, but your kindness and your love and the power of that feeling.
Power of love. I get that.
I have a feeling we're going to get a moment like the first Avengers film, where Captain America, played by Chris Evans, tells
he's
Scarlett
my god.
Johansson. I mean,
Dreamboat.
everybody, come on, with that Dorito upper
every-
body.
And
But
he's so sweet. Anyway.
He's so sweet. But Captain America, in his first Captain America movie, wasn't overtly religious. You get to the Avengers, and Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, is telling him not to mess with Thor because he's a god. And he's just putting on a parachute. There's only one god, ma'am, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like this. And he jumps out. And that was a pitch-perfect Captain America moment. That character doesn't push any of his beliefs on anybody else. He loves everybody. He is a total and complete humanist, and considering the era that he came from, all of these different things. But that one line was zeroed in on groups around the United States, religious groups that criticized the film as being inappropriate for various things. But they were like, but Captain America is the best character. This line, this line was great. I related to that character, and the same way that these sort of watch groups would always, the same way that they criticize most Hollywood movies about whatever inappropriate for age group and blah 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 blah. And I think that we're going to get something like that from Disney. I think that Charles Wallace or whoever brought up Jesus Christ when talking about which kinds of people would fight the darkness, and I am totally on board with the idea of Jesus being somebody who is spoken of as a real person, obviously. Who preached peace, along with other names of other brilliant, Renaissance artists and all these different things.
Sense.
If that name gets dropped in a way to sort of get a certain group of people around the world to perk their ears up and listen to the message of the film, so be it. Do it. Because to me, the book didn't lean into it too heavy. The book doesn't say this is what's right. The book just says to me, these characters believe this, but also science fiction.
It was an entity that was bigger than Earth.
Yes.
Talking about an Earth religion.
Yeah.
And it was done in a way that this was the key to life.
Sure.
And when I just felt that it was slight religious propaganda. That's how I saw that.
Yeah.
At the end, that's when they are reading the passages and saying he in all caps, that was when I got that. Before that, I felt it was very even-keeled, but then I got there and I also
it just was like, all right, now we're spooning it in, eat it up. And I was like, no,
I did, because I think earlier we were talking about how people were remarking on those elements of it when the book was published, and we were both like, oh, but it feels like pretty chill. Like
Sure.
And then at the end, I got there and I thought, okay.
Mrs. Who has no chill, apparently, in that last part. She's
Yeah.
like, just
No
real quick.
Yeah.
God's
Here's
the
a biblical
reason.
passage.
Do your homework.
Yeah. For sure. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what the movie does.
And I skimmed through it too, because I went to Catholic school, so I just was like, well, I've probably read this.
Not again.
I did not go to Catholic school, so I was like, well, I've never heard this. What is this? Interesting. It'll be interesting to see, because I think that when talking about religion, when talking about people's beliefs, I think it's very easy to say something like, well, God, to some people, is the force in the Star Wars universe. Or is this other power, this goodness force in this other fictional universe, and so on and so forth.
Or
So
a set of rules to live by and a moral code.
I think it's easy to make those connections, and I think it's easy to do that is to not alienate certain groups of the audience, but is to not zero in and alienate another section of the audience. It's a tricky balance.
Absolutely.
This movie is going to be marketed towards everybody around the world. It's going to be an international thing. And
so fine with the fundamental value being love conquers all. I think that is a great message to deliver, and I'm absolutely happy that they're going to be like, it was a little bit cheesy. I won't lie. I love you. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. Yay, let's go.
Oh, I liked it.
I liked it too. And
It
it's a
was so
kid's
great.
book too. You're like, oh, the power of
if
love.
that they could do that so well in the movie if they pull that off. That moment could be a moment. It could
I
be
can
great.
see it being.
It could be
I
great,
think
yeah.
I need to see it instead of read it.
I gotcha. Totally.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because I can
Can't
see
wait.
her like tears brimming and it being
Yes.
like screaming and it being hard. And
Yes,
But
and well acted.
from reading it, it was just like his mouth was agape and his eyes were whirring, and all of a sudden it was like, Meg,
Mm-hmm.
It does feel unfinished at the end. It feels
Yeah.
like they were like, all right, like maybe her editor was like, wrap it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
you
was like,
know?
and then everything was fine.
Yeah.
Done.
Guys,
Got
I'm
it.
going to read
Okay,
book
deadline.
2. I'll keep you posted. I'll let you
Yeah,
know
let me-
if
'cause
I'll
I
be like,
might get
really
it
read
too.
book 2. It's really part 2 of the whole story. I'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
And,
I'm gonna keep playing video
yeah,
games instead.
So keep doing that. So guys, we're putting up a 3-minute clock. We teased them at the top of the show, but now you've got 3 minutes to pick next month's book.
No, to book your
To
bick.
book it and book your pick.
Book
your
your
bick.
pick.
Book your bick. Let's get 3-minute clock rolling, and there it is. Okay, Rachel, Maude, which book are you hoping for of the 3 options we've got up?
I would be happy with any of them because I haven't read any of them.
Me neither.
Same.
I think Rogue One would be interesting going into Rogue One because
I agree.
Yes, I want to know history and backstory.
Me too.
yeah, I want
Dun,
I
dun, dun,
love
dun, 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 dun.
going into all of the everything
that
that we
Duel of the
know
Fates?
from
Yes.
other canon.
Of all the Star Wars music you grabbed,
That's my favorite.
episode 1, that's my jam.
No, Drill the Fates is the best thing about episode 1.
It is the best.
It does things to me, that song.
It's beautiful.
Real talk, John Williams' work in the prequels is better than the original trilogy. I said it. His music work. I believe it. Those
The
films
music
are
is really
way
good.
worse, but the music
ooh,
is
Drill the Fates. I just got a shiver.
so good.
Woo.
Yeah, but keep going. But who do we got, Rachel? What do we got?
And then Dark Tower, I've been meaning to read forever.
Me too.
It's just such a classic series that people love so much.
Yeah.
Jessica Chobot is one of the biggest Dark
Yes.
Tower fans.
Yes, and I think I even asked her too when we were talking about it. I think she's even read some of the Marvel comics as well. And I remember when those were coming out, that's when I learned about Dark Tower.
Marvel's
because I'm
doing
such a
comics
comic
on Dark
guy.
Tower?
They did back like maybe 10 years ago.
Whoa.
And I don't know if they're still, I don't think they're still doing them. They might be reprinting them,
I
obviously,
think
because
so.
the film's coming out. But I wanted to get into them then, but I was like, I haven't read any of the books yet. I feel like I should read them. They're like a supplemental thing.
So
that's
all went
my
on our
excuse.
to-do list big time. I was just saying to Rachel that I went on Audible and I went to, as soon as the news came out that it was being made into a movie, I wanted to buy it straight away. It was sitting
Yeah.
in my wish list. And then when I went to buy it, it was like, sorry, it's no longer available. They've taken it off Audible.
Ugh.
So write an angry email,
Yeah.
sign it by me,
Audible.
send it.
That's right.
Okay, bring
That's
it
right.
back.
And Philip K. Dick, you've never
Yeah,
read it.
I
And
haven't
wanna
read that
that.
one.
Blade Runner
and I
2 is
love-
coming out, you guys.
And I love Blade Runner.
Didn't love, I liked the first half of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
The second half was long for me.
Sure.
I haven't
also
seen it probably since I was.
didn't like any version of
College.
Blade Runner I've ever seen, and that is the most unpopular opinion ever. Is I don't.
Thank God we 50%
I think it's
agree.
super close.
Keep voting.
Come on.
Pick
But
your poison.
I love how influential Blade Runner is. I think it looks super cool.
Yeah.
I love the sci-fi element of it all.
course,
I
of
just
course.
thought it
It
just
inspires
veered into
so
a place
much,
where
yeah.
it
It's
went,
great.
what?
I
Do you
had a
even know
tough
what you're
time
saying
with the
anymore?
initial, even just the ask, just the get for me is tough. Which is, hey, we've developed this race of really powerful and strong humans.
How
and
is that
because
hard
they're
to embrace?
wait,
Cylons in Battlestar?
Sure, but then it's like they're super strong. Because they're so strong, we programmed them to live for 4 years and they're going to die out. But here's the thing, they keep escaping. And they come to Earth, so much so that like we have to create a police division to hunt them down. But here's the thing, we didn't keep any sort of log about what they look like, even though we're a factory that made them. So can you guys
Okay, loophole.
administer some tests to like, just question their humanity? I'm already like, there's no record, nobody took a picture like,
So that
off
was the good thing about the
that's
Cylons. They had
that's the-
8, wasn't it?
yes.
Just 8 and that was it?
models
there
that
were
would keep
12.
12.
Battlestar worked on it, but I only saw the first season. So 12.
All right,
Here we
all
go.
right, what's our
All right.
Here we
winner?
go.
was super close.
Yep.
Oh,
So 36% of the vote is the Gunslinger.
Gunslinger!
Cool. No.
Gunslinger, the Dark Tower, Part
I'm
1.
Gonna read Rogue One anyway, though.
yeah, I want to read that
me too. Me too. But guys, Gunslinger, Part 1 of the Dark Tower series, The Gunslinger. The book is broken up into 5 sections. So your assignment, should you choose to accept it,
accept
is to read the first 2 sections. The first 2 sections. We will be reading the revised edition that Stephen King released in 2003 to fix a few things that came up after the 1982 printing. Any of the new editions that say expanded or revised should be fine. Thank you guys so much for doing that research and figuring that out for us. We
Wow,
really
yeah,
appreciate it. So yeah, we're always looking for our next book. So if you have any recommendations, guys, we've got a beautiful list. We want to keep adding to it. We will get to everything. The show is going to go on forever and ever and ever. Feel free to hit us
Until we
up.
are full of wrinkles.
Full of wrinkles, yeah. We're going to get our wrinkle on, literally. So hit us up in the chat or tweet at Nerdist or at Geek and Sundry or join Team Alpha with the hashtag Alpha Book Club along with your recommendations. Let us know, guys, so much. This was so much fun. I am Hector Navarro.
I'm Rachel Heine.
I'm Maude Garret.
And we will see you all next week right here on Alpha.
We
Bye.
are the ABC.
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 Well,
I'm a bee.